I'm going to try not to eviscerate Jimmy Butler too hard in this video because, look, I actually am a fan of his as a player, and I'm a fan of his in terms of his intensity and his passion throughout his career. But I think the way he is handling things in Miami are wrong. And I do think at the same time, the Heat kind of have no leverage in this situation. I feel like this is a really tough spot for the Heat that Jimmy is putting them in. But I also think it's not doing Jimmy any favors either. So I'm going to talk about why I think this whole saga has just gone sideways and is actually hurting both parties. So before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I'm uploading every single day, multiple NBA videos a day on this channel. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, tonight, the Heat outscored the Pacers by 11 in the fourth quarter and still lose by 13. A 24-point deficit before the fourth quarter. And Jimmy Butler did not play in the fourth quarter. He played 27 minutes in the first three quarters, did not touch the floor in the fourth, was a minus 27 in those 27 minutes, by far a team worst. Only 9 points on 6 shots. Very little offensive assertiveness whatsoever from Jimmy tonight. In all honesty, he spent most of the game standing in the corner, kind of just watching. Did not look interested at all in going out there and playing hard. Same thing on the defensive end of the court. It was not the Jimmy Butler you're used to saying, who's intense, locked in, communicating, super switchable, high effort defender. He was the opposite of that tonight, hedging high on a screen and just giving up wide open slip dunks and not even attempting to recover. Like, there were plays throughout that game that were just like, what is Jimmy doing? Does he care at all? And here's the honest answer. I think the answer is no. He just plain and simple doesn't. That's not something I support. I think an NBA player just actively quitting on their team, especially in 2025, that's not a good way to go about things, because this is the second time Jimmy's at least kind of done this in his career. He basically kind of did it with Minnesota several years ago as well. And it does kind of create the appearance, at least, of Jimmy being a bit of a toxic player when things go bad. And look, I get he wants to be traded. I get he doesn't want to be in Miami anymore. He's made that pretty clear, and he's making it more clear. I mean, let's just listen to what he said after the game tonight. I think this is worth taking a listen to basically what he said in his interview last night, or earlier tonight, I should say.
What will fix it? What do you want to see happen to fix it?
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball, and wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here.
No, he's not. Okay, that's fair.
I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
There you go. That's all you need to hear. Jimmy Butler actively says, I want to get my joy back on a basketball court, wherever that may be, and then is asked, do you think that can happen here? And he says no. Number one, I do at least appreciate that he included the qualifier of on the court where he's lost his joy, because good Lord, dude, you're making $50 million and you live in Miami. Your life cannot be that hard. I'm not trying to be one of those guys who says rich people don't struggle, because obviously rich people do have their own personal struggles, and sometimes those can be very serious and very painful. But he is making $50 million living in Miami, Florida. Like, it could be a lot worse. And I'm glad he's not sitting here acting like his life is the worst. But it is very, very, very clear that this man does not want to be a member of the Miami Heat anymore, and will basically, I think, do whatever he can at this point to get out of Miami, which means, let's keep in mind, Jimmy Butler has a player option for next year for $51 million. If the Heat don't trade him, he will decline his player option, which $51 million is a lot of money. I think if he was happy, he would consider picking it up. But I think he'll decline the player option to go somewhere else. And that means the Heat will lose him for absolutely nothing. And so that's why the Heat kind of have no leverage, because Jimmy's made it very clear he does not want to be in Miami. And he's making it clear with his play on the court these last 2 games since he returned from whatever phantom illness he had. I'm not certain how real that illness was, but he clearly has no interest whatsoever in playing Miami. I mean, his numbers in general this season have not been great. You look at the season-long numbers, and he's at, 55% from the field, which is very good, but only 36.5. Actually, 36. He's up to 36.5 from 3. Shout out to Jimmy, because Jimmy was not shooting the 3-ball well early in the year at all. But point being, I mean, he shoots 5 shots in the win over New Orleans. Yeah, they won the game, but New Orleans sucks. He shoots 5 shots, scores 9 points. That was the game before this last game. And then tonight, he obviously shoots 6 shots. It is a minus 19 or minus 27. I'm sorry, in a game that they get blown out. Like, in general, clearly a disinterested Jimmy Butler in terms of trying to truly help his team win. He's shooting the three really pretty well, which shout out to Jimmy. He's done that the last few years, but he's gotten it back up to where he wants it to be, I think, after a rough start to the season, admittedly on very low volume. But the efficiency from inside the three-point arc has been really, really good. The volume is clearly lower this year. I think that's in large part because of how well Tyler Hero has played, but his scoring's down to 18 a game. Is that frustrating him? Probably. Does that hurt his market value if he does wind up being an unrestricted free agent this offseason? 100%. Also, what else hurts his value is the fact that he's 35 years old. The man turns 36 in September. He'll be 36 before next season starts. Like, let's not act like Jimmy Butler has a super long career ahead of him at this point. This man's probably got a couple more years. Like, his next contract will be his last in all likelihood, and likely probably won't be a long-term contract, which is why I think in his mind, he'd like to get traded somewhere else that he can pick up his player option next year to make $51 million playing basketball somewhere else other than Miami. Does another team want him for that price point, though? That's where we have question marks. I think he would fit great in Houston. I don't know about the fit in Houston in the longer term, though. This season, he gives them a go-to guy. Honestly, maybe next season too would be fine. I think that's the best fit for him. A team where his defensive effort and intensity can wear off, where he can be a real leader, I think, in a culture with a lot of young guys. Although him and Ime Udoka would have to get along. Those two guys are both very passionate. Could certainly clash heads, wouldn't shock me. Like, that would be an interesting fit to see if it worked, but if it did, it could be beautiful, and he would give them that number one closing option as well. And that's the perfect spot, I think, for him. The problem is, if I'm Houston or San Antonio or any of these teams that actually have the flexibility to get Jimmy and are good enough to where it would make sense for them to go for him. If you're one of those teams, why would you want Jimmy Butler when there's a possibility De'Aaron Fox becomes available? And when there's a possibility always that other guys are going to become available too. Do you really want the 35-year-old who's not a superstar anymore? Probably not, right? Like, that's what the problem for Jimmy is, that this may not work out for him financially as much as he'd like it to. I feel like this might lose Jimmy money. And I just don't think, while he has leverage in that the Heat, he's just not going to play hard for them if he sticks on the Heat. So he's not helping the Heat. So it benefits them to trade him. It's become very clear that he wants out. So in that respect, it hurts the Heat. And it probably hurts the trade value they can get for Jimmy as well, because he's made it so clear he wants to be out and because he hasn't played with a ton of intensity and effort recently. At the same time, this situation is also hurting Jimmy because he's losing out on money. Not that that's an issue for him, of course, but he is losing out on money. And I think clearly he looks miserable. I mean, I don't think that's fake. I don't think he's going home tonight and he's in an amazingly awesome mood. Maybe he is. I could be wrong, but I feel like with the passion of Jimmy and somebody who seems to care so much about basketball, you'd think he'd be, this isn't probably his favorite time. You know what I'm saying? So this is just a lose-lose situation in Miami. It's really unfortunate because I don't know. Miami wasn't a contender this year anyway, in my mind, but I don't think they're going to get quite what they want for Jimmy in return. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they'll get more than I think. And I don't know if Jimmy's going to, I don't know. I just don't want this to be the way his career ends. He asks out, he goes somewhere else, disappoints, and that's it. Like, that'd be a shame. So I like Jimmy. I hope that things get figured out, whether that's in Miami or somewhere else. I really don't know, but a lot of clearly clashing of heads here currently going on with him and Pat Riley and probably Eric Spoelstra, and a good variety. I bet his teammates aren't happy at him right now. Like, it's just, this is going to be an interesting situation to watch, and it is clearly going from bad to worst in Miami. I don't know what the future holds, obviously, but this is something we had to talk about. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I will be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.